Arrived at our Airbnb with a friend. We're about to go explore the cabin that we booked, which is just there in the background. So we've got a couple chairs here, a bed, then just a trunk to put some of our stuff, fireplace, not that we need it in this weather, aircon, it's going to be quite warm. Don't know who you are. Tub, which I'll probably have a bath later, put some magnesium salts in there, ready for the race.
It's Wednesday today. We've just arrived at our accommodation in Jindabyne where we'll be doing the race, or you'll be doing the race, I should say. We left Adelaide yesterday. We've been driving for 2 days straight, about 15 hours total. The race is on Friday in 2 days. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Well, it was a long drive, so we spent about 13 hours on the road. This place is pretty calming. I'm feeling excited, like confident. I have full confidence that I'll be able to finish the race. I think it's more, I've never tested myself over 100 kilometers. So it's like, can my body take 100 kilometers? And then how hard am I going to push myself? Do I know my own limits?
Do you think you're prepared?
Yeah, I feel prepared. I've got all my gear, done a lot of running, a lot of recovery, pretty well just relaxed the last week and done absolutely nothing, but also like been to like a recovery center, cold pools, saunas, foam rolling, I've had massages. So I feel good. I feel fully recovered.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're worried about with the race? Any challenges you think might come up? Any obstacles? Anything you're worried about?
I guess my own ego and trying to push myself too hard. But I think I have enough intuition to understand what's overcoming a mental barrier and where my body actually needs to stop and, walk or rest or get more fuel. So yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a fear of the unknown. So, right now, if you ask me if I'm keen to run, like I'm not at all. I'm just kind of a little bit spaced out, like I have been for the last week. It's almost like my body just knows that it's in rest mode. So I think just honouring that and honouring the fact that I'm just resting, recharging, recovering. Like we're out at a pretty well farmhouse at the moment, and like we'll eat a nice meal tonight, and the idea is that, by the time the morning comes on race day, I will be completely refreshed, recharged. I imagine that for most of the race, I won't be listening to music, but there might be periods where I might need a little bit of pick me up. Lord of the Rings tracks, Star Wars tracks.
Well, I think you're going to do amazing. I can't wait. I'm nervous as your support staff.
What are you nervous about?
I'm nervous that I feel like I'll have to be a rock if you are struggling. So even when you're struggling, I have to be strong.
Yeah. Previously, the furthest I've run before this was 40 kilometers from my front yard. Running through a mountain on the trails for 105 compared to 40 kilometers on flat ground in the streets is like a whole new ball game. So like any new challenge I walk into, I just prepare as much as I can, mentally, physically, and I back myself 100%. So.
Yeah.
Naomi and I are just sitting out front of the farmhouse and we're doing a tarot reading, and I pulled the Hermit.
It is time to draw your attention inwards and find the answers you seek deep within your soul. The hermit stands alone on a cliff, mountains resting below his feet. We can see by his beard that he has been on his spiritual journey for decades. He is here to light the path for others and show them the way. Take this card as a sign to go on a solo journey or spend a day in solitude to tune into your heart and intuition. What are you cooking?
Sausage, egg, tomato and onion, have some reps.
Yeah.
And then I guess the plan for the day is do a bit of foam rolling, get all my stuff sorted, all the electrolyte packs. We'll check in today as well. Check in. Yeah, so this morning we woke up at 6:30. Reason being is I usually like to sleep in, but I'd like to set my circadian rhythm. So if I wake up early, that's going to signal to my body to be able to go to sleep earlier. It means the adenosine chemical in my body is going to build up, making me sleepy earlier, so that I wake up for tomorrow's 6:30 race. So we'll have something to eat, some breakfast, and then get on with our day. Excited for brekkie?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So I've got all my gear packed. Mandatory gear, so things like torches in case we run into the night. Could be quite likely. Thermal top, thermal bottoms, compass, whistle, bandages, space blanket, rain jacket, wet ones, just preparing for anything. Salt tablets to prevent cramps. Yeah, basically all the mandatory gear, including the pack. And so all of this is going to go in here. Mine's the poles, they're attached to the back, which I'll only be using for the first 5 kilometers because it's incredibly steep uphill. So I'll just be walking, hiking with these as fast as I can to get ahead. These are my running shoes, and I've got a spare pair of running shoes in there, along with like a hat and a few other things, including 2 other bottles to swap out at checkpoints. Naomi's going to be supporting me at the checkpoints.
How are you going?
Good job.
And I've labeled them as checkpoint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And in these checkpoints, I've put in snacks to account for the checkpoint that they are. For example, 54 kilometers within the first 3 checkpoints. So there's a lot of fuel here. So here, this is like a double fuel source compared to one of these. So I've got Nutella, which is healthy fats in the nuts, then honey, cinnamon, and Celtic salt wrapped up, electrolyte mixes. And so I've got all my snacks through here up until checkpoint 8, because in the ultra, it's basically a game of being able to eat enough, and so you don't burn out. So staying on top of your fuel. The only downside to having too much fuel is probably like going off the track or at a checkpoint and having to use some of these. So yeah, I'm prepped. I'm gonna go into check in. I already got all the gear checked off in Adelaide, so hopefully I can just go there, check in, and we should be sweet for tomorrow. Stretch out my limb. Cooking up dinner for tomorrow, 2 pork steaks and some potato. Our friends just joined us. Hey Lara, hey Adam.
Hey.
How you feeling about the race tomorrow, Adam?
Ready to rumble.
Yeah?
Yep.
We've just been banked up in traffic and we are almost running late. We're going to be there in 7 minutes and we will be there about probably 5 minutes early, which wasn't planned, but you've got to make do with your situation. So we're almost there. Last night was just basically hydrating, getting heaps of salts in, heaps of carbs, and yeah, feel ready. I've just been stretching in the car because we've only got about 5 minutes, so hopefully I can jump out, take a quick piss, and then start the race.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5k in, we just got to the first checkpoint. Now we're on these grates, which is a forced walk.
This way, you fools! Come on, move!
I'm not sure where Adam is. I don't think he's too far behind. But I'm just going to keep running and hopefully he catches up. 2 hours in, 12 kilometers in, and I'm running downhill. And I'm running at about a 5-minute pace. Feels good. Just careful that I don't roll my ankle or anything on the downhill. Let's go! 16 kilometers in. Jamison, Adam, and Kato are all behind me somewhere. I don't know how far, but I'm feeling pretty good. On an incline at the moment. So 16 kilometers in, 2 hours and 25 minutes in. I'm walking at about 9 minutes 30 pace. Feeling good. Just making sure that I'm on top of my salt tablets every 8 kilometers or more. Woo! And just making sure that I'm fueling up, getting all my nutrition in. Huge shout out to my coach Marty. All those hill sprints at the weight vest, starting to pay off now. Heaps of inclines, and on the mild inclines, I can run them, which is a massive boost. Cheers, bro. We got some snow coming up.
Let's go. Hey, how you doing? See you soon. Bye, boys.
How are you going?
Good job.
You're doing so good. How do you feel?
Alright.
Alright?
Calves are a little bit dead.
Yeah.
Glutes a little bit. But overall feel pretty good.
Yeah?
Fuel up.
Alright.
We're almost 40 kilometers in. Adam caught up to me pretty quick. And yeah, before the checkpoint I was feeling dehydrated. Pretty sunstroked. Feeling good now. Adam's tip to just scull half a litre of Coke seems to be paying off. How you feeling, Adam?
Let's go, baby. Go on for this.
43 kilometers in, which is officially the furthest I've ever ran. Feeling pretty good, feeling better than the last checkpoint. Got a hat to block out the sun. The sun seems to have gone behind the clouds. I'm feeling pretty good. How you feeling, Adam?
Fresh as daisies, bro.
It started raining.
Lovely.
Still going.
I can pretend.
54. How are you doing?
I'm dying.
You're dying.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I feel alright. I feel alright.
Yeah.
Gonna get tired.
Yeah, it's fine.
Bye.
Bye.
That last checkpoint, changed my shoes over. My Ultra's running shoes had like massive rips in them, and that was soggy wet. So I dried my feet off. Naomi helped me out. Put some fresh socks on, some fresh shoes, and we're heading towards the 70-kilometer checkpoint. Recharge, and then we got a 30-kilometer incline to go. Let's go, Adam. How you feeling?
$88 Ks. How are you feeling?
A little bit rooted, legs are a bit dead, but I'm feeling okay. We ran the last 10 kilometers in thunderstorms, and the 10 kilometers before that was about probably 30 degrees, humid.
Yeah.
Some of the guys were running out of water. A few people were like almost looking at passing out.
Yeah, that looks so dead. Oh no, they're hurting. Oh my god, we were so worried.
Oh my god.
Are you
My
okay?
head torch went out. Let's do it.
Go get it. Go get it, Ali.
We're 103 kilometers in. My legs are obliterated. I'm struggling to walk, let alone run. Adam's been a wicked comrade. I'm sure he could have jogged half of this, but he's keeping up with me, which is awesome.
Daniel Lozes, Darcy McClure Watson, Mark Dorset, Dowsett. Well done. Well done, team. Here comes Nathan Kinner. Well done, Nathan. Brandy.
Officially finished the race in 17 hours and 42 minutes. My legs are obliterated. I'm literally a vegetable. Yeah, I pushed myself probably further than I ever have. Thankfully, Adam stayed back with me as well and supported me, helped me through it. He probably would have finished a bit earlier if he didn't. But we still came in the top 250. I came 211th, and Adam came 210th next to me.
Daniel Moses, Darcy McClure Watson, Mark Dorset, Dowsett.
$106 kilometers done and dusted. Little reflection after the race. I've just got a few dot points here. Number one, I just wanted to go through a few highlights of the race. So the first highlight of the race, and these are the good, the bad, not all necessarily good, but one of them was the 5 kilometer climb at the beginning. My friend had done Mount Kosci last year and he told me to practice walking uphill. So I practiced jogging up a few hills. I did a couple of weight vest runs, but the climb that we had at the beginning of Mount Kosci was so steep, it was ridiculous. There was no way you could run it. It was challenging just to walk it. And it just absolutely burned my calves. And this was for about the first 5 kilometers of the entire race. So by the time you even start the 106 kilometer ultra, you're absolutely destroyed by the first 5 kilometers. There was nothing I would have necessarily done different. I think one thing that I did really well was I was prepared enough to grab hiking poles, because without those hiking poles, it would have been extremely difficult to get up that hill. The next stage was from the 0 to the 25 kilometer mark. So this checkpoint at 25 kilometers, I actually got there pretty quick. I felt really good. We started with a few guys, myself, Adam, Kato, Jamison, and Reese, and I was actually in front of everyone without actually, trying to beat anyone. I just felt good. There was one point where I was running downhill in probably 4-minute 50 Ks, which is pretty quick. And I just felt good. And I thought, am I pushing myself too hard here? And I wasn't. Little did I know what was to come. So I felt real fresh then. The views were spectacular, looking across the mountainside and getting to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. I just felt good all round. There were absolutely no issues. Legs felt fresh, and I thought I was going to get an incredible time, but I was in for a treat. So the next highlight was around the 30-kilometer mark. So at this point, Adam had caught back up to me. Adam and I were running together, and I started to get a cramp in my adductors, so on the inside of my legs. I felt the cramp coming on, and I thought, oh, got to stop here, getting a cramp. So I took a salt tablet, and then Adam helped me out with this stuff called Cramp Fix, which is kind of like pickle juice or vinegar, similar thing, and you squirt a little bit in your mouth. That, with the salt, helped fix that cramp. Then about maybe 3 minutes later into a jog, I got it again in the same area. Another cramp fix, another salt tablet, and I had no cramps for the rest of the race. So that worked pretty well and actually avoided getting a cramp. As soon as I felt the onset of the cramp, fixed it straight away. So next time I would make sure that I definitely take cramp fix with me, as well as the salt tablets. I was taking a salt tablet every 8 kilometers, roughly. Every hour, every 8 kilometers. The next one that stood out to me was the 64-kilometer checkpoint. So at this point, it had been raining. So we went through crazy weather patterns even up to this point. In the beginning, it was like freezing cold and windy towards Mount Kosciuszko, towards the top, which was perfect conditions for me. I love that. I love that weather, the cold weather. It's beautiful to run in. Then it started heating up, and I actually started to get a bit of sunstroke because I didn't have a hat. My hat was with my support crew, Naomi and a few others. So I think this is part of the reason why I got cramps as well. So in future, I would have taken my bucket hat in my bag, even if it was cold, dark conditions, because it was evident to me that it can get hot very quickly. And as soon as you start losing a lot of sweat and you start getting burnt by the sun, your body starts getting depleted of a lot of minerals, and that's why the cramps were coming on. So at the 64-kilometer checkpoint, we went through the heat, we went through the cold and windy stage, and we also went through torrential rain. And by the time we got there, I was soaked. My shoes were destroyed. They were pretty well ripped and halved. And I was just soaked. My feet were wet. I was feeling quite miserable. Naomi helped me out and put some pain relief cream all down the backside of my hamstrings and my calves. So that helped me feel a little bit better. Then I dried my feet off and put some new socks on and some new shoes. Those new shoes I bought on the way up to Mount Kosciuszko as a last resort. So I'm so glad that I actually brought those shoes with me, because if I didn't, I would have been running in half beaten up shoes with rips through them. So very glad that I bought a second pair of shoes, and that's something I'll definitely do next time. So I had dry feet now, I had new shoes, I had pain relief cream on, and then I put some earphones in and started listening to some music. So from that 64-kilometer checkpoint to the 70th kilometer checkpoint was mostly a slight downhill run, and I felt the most amazing in that section compared to the entire run, apart from those first 20 kilometers. I just felt really good. Morale was high. It was an incredible feeling. The next checkpoint was at 70 kilometers to 88. So we had a 20-kilometer gap, and that was the hardest part of the race. Not only my opinion, but every other racer's opinion as well. So at the beginning of that 20-kilometer stretch, mind you, we had no support crew at the beginning of the 20-kilometer stretch because they weren't able to get to that location. So we only had limited supplies, and then as we were running through this 20-kilometer stretch, it was incredibly hot and humid, and everyone was getting quite dehydrated. We saw a lot of runners that were just sort of passed out on the side, DNF, which means did not finish. So a lot of people were dropping out at this point. We started overtaking people, Adam and myself, and even we started to be depleted of a lot of our water and a lot of our snacks. So in future, I probably would have taken a few more gels, but there's only so much you can do. And for the last 8 kilometers of that 20 kilometer stretch, it went from about a 30-degree, humid, heat stroking situation to torrential lightning, rain, thunderstorms. Incredibly tough to get through. We were getting drenched with rain, thunderstorms very close by. Could see lightning flashes. The thunderstorms were so loud, and we were just trudging through. The last, say, 5 kilometers, we ran the entire thing. It was just myself, Adam, and a guy that was with us named Darcy. And the 3 of us were just like an absolute dream team, just smashing through the wet, muddy ground as we were just trudging through the race, making sure that we got to the next checkpoint. We did not walk once in that stretch until we got to like incredible inclines, and then we'd walk a little bit and then we'd run again. I felt like something off of a movie at that point. I just had that, like a loop of the song from Mordor, just like cranking through my head as the 3 of us were just like going, and it was just an incredible feeling. Thankfully, none of us fainted or passed out or dropped out because of the lack of resources. And we finally made it to the next checkpoint where we saw the girls, and it was just a beautiful checkpoint. They had like proper food, like, Vegemite sandwiches, chicken noodle soup, grain waves, Coca-Cola, all this stuff that we were just getting in us. At this point, I put on some fresh socks as well, even though my shoes were soaked. Adam and I changed into our thermal tops because it was getting quite chilly. It started to get dark at this point. This is at kilometer 88. So this is getting closer to the end. At this point, the sun started to drop. We were about 14 hours in, and we put our head torches on. Now, little did I know, the 2 head torches that I packed, I put used batteries in there, not fresh batteries. So my torch was actually dead for this entire 10 kilometer stretch, which made it incredibly hard for me emotionally because my morale was very low. I had to rely on the torch behind me, and that torch was usually on me, which created a shadow in front of me, so I couldn't see any rocks, pebbles, puddles in front of me. So it really helped that Adam was in front saying, puddle here, rock here, tree root here, and I would have to look ahead to see where he was, and then I'd have to move left for the light to shine in front of me, just so I could navigate myself through that 10 kilometer stretch. Starting to really tire out here as well. Calves are really starting to die on me. Same as the hamstrings. Basically the back portion, the entire posterior chain started to like deactivate on me. And then we finally made it to the last checkpoint, which was 95, checkpoint kilometer 95. At this point, we'd been running for about 16 and a half hours, close to 17 hours. And we had 10 kilometers to go. So this last 10 kilometer stretch absolutely fried me. I could barely run, let alone walk. I could barely walk, let alone run, shall I say. And as I was walking, like as we left that checkpoint, I remember just like limping, and I just thought, how am I going to get through this last 10 kilometers? At this point, there were 2 scenarios where I almost cried. I felt welling up inside of me where I wanted to cry. Just the combination of being extremely proud of myself that I'd been making it this far, and then also like I am in so much pain and I'm still going. And never once did I think I wasn't going to finish the race. I knew I was going to finish the race. It was just about how much pain I could endure. This last 10 kilometer stretch, Adam, which was more experienced with a few more ultras, he was encouraging me. He probably could have finished this last stretch with a jog, but I couldn't. I was almost down and out, but I knew I'd be finishing it, so I was walking, and there were points where Adam was walking ahead, and I just wanted to push harder, and I went through a period of maybe 5 to 10 minutes where I just started to run, and I couldn't even tell you how I was running. It was like running on broken legs, and I was just using my breath to help me run, and I was just in twice through the nose and out. And I just said, let's go. And And then Adam's like, yes, yes. And then we were just running. We got to an incline bit and I'm like, man, I gotta stop. And so I continued to walk. I never once stood still. I was either walking or running, but I got to a point where I was walking at almost 15 k's an hour, which is 15 minutes a k, sorry, which was extremely slow. And I just tried my hard to just put one foot in front of the other. I got to an incline and my hands were pressed up against my quads, going left, right, because my legs were obliterated. So I was just trying to use my arms and my upper body to like push, to lunge forward. The idea was just keep moving forward. And Adam was saying things like, come on, Jamison's not that far behind us. He's gonna catch us. He was saying the girls have done so much for us. Let's get them home. It's terrible weather. I'm like, man, I'm trying so hard. My legs are only carrying me so far. And I remember at one stage, he looked back at me and he said, Dan, how you going? And I was like, dude, I feel like I'm sleepwalking. It's the best way I can describe it. I'm like, I'm not here physically, I'm somewhere else. And these last 10 kilometers just killed me. And by the time we started approaching the finish line, we could hear all the bells and whistles, the people cheering. We could see, the stadium lights or the lights in the background, and we could hear runners coming through. And Adam was like, you hear that, man? That's going to be your name. And, as much as it inspired me, I just had nothing left in me. And I just said to Adam, Adam, when we get to that top of that hill, I'll run all the way down with you. And he said, all right. We got to the top of that hill. By the time we got to that hill, Darcy, that we'd been running that 20-kilometer stretch with, caught up to us, and another bloke as well. So all four of us started like running towards the finish line, and it was the best feeling in the world. Just like all four of us running together. We crossed the finish line. We all hugged, limped off, felt like an absolute vegetable. It was hard for me to communicate while preventing myself from crying. My whole body just like oozing with pride and sense of accomplishment. And it's just the most amazing feeling in the world. The hardest race I've ever done in my life. The hardest I've ever pushed my body in my life. And yeah, it's just a beautiful feeling. And got awarded the finisher medal. So about 620 people entered, and 140 of those didn't make it across the finish line. So just making it across the finish line was an incredible achievement. Finished 211th out of the 600 plus runners. So that was placing me in the top 30%, which is incredible for my first trail run, let alone my first ultra run being 106 kilometers. So I was just extremely proud. And then look, in terms of injuries, let me just check if we're still filming. Okay, we are. In terms of injuries, I got to the end of the finish line and I could barely walk. I'm telling you, I was a vegetable. I was in so much pain. I was just walking like I had two big sticks as legs, just like left, right. So much pain. And yeah, I sat down. I remember being asked if I wanted something to drink, something to eat. I said, no, nothing. I was just in a flight mode, just like passed out, hands and head onto the table. And first thing I did was Naomi helped me take my shoes and my socks off. And when I looked down at my feet, it looked like a crime scene. And I'll post the video at the end of this. So for the people that don't want to see the gruesome video of my feet, tune out when I say so. I will give you a warning, but if you do want to see it, it's quite bad. And so a note for me next time is number one, trim my toenails, completely trim my toenails before the race. And number two, I think my shoes were a little bit too small as well. So the fact that my toenails were a little outgrown and I had smaller shoes created this constant impact on my toes. And I killed a few toenails in the process, which is not good, and I'm still recovering from that now. Another thing I'm still recovering from as well is the inflammation and the swollen adductor as well. So that's like just on the inside of the knee, close to the hamstring. Can't tell if it's my adductor or my hamstring, but it's very swollen. And if there is a way I could prevent that, I don't think so. Like the things that I would have done next time is, number one, I would have brought my own cramp fix, because if Adam wasn't there, with that vinegar / pickle juice could have been out. So I'm just lucky I had Adam with that and salt tablets. I would have probably relied more heavily on gels. Because I was in that fight-flight response, I just didn't want to eat. Like I forced myself to eat a couple of times, but even things like lollies and sour worms, I just didn't want to eat. I just did not feel like it. The only thing I felt like stomaching was just like a gel, squeezing a gel. And you know, it might be different next time, so I've got to take that in consideration. But it was incredibly good just to get those gels in me. And I think just eating whole foods at the checkpoints, whatever's there, I think that's probably something I would do next time. Everybody's different in that sense. I didn't have caffeine at all through the entire race. I didn't have it at the beginning of the race, and I didn't have it towards the end of the race, because for the entire race, I almost felt always dehydrated. Like I always needed more water. I always needed more fuel. And so because my adrenal glands that process stress were so stressed out and I was in this fight and flight mode, it just seemed ridiculous to add to that with caffeine. You know, there was never once like, oh, I'm tired and I want to go to sleep. It was just like, I'm wide awake, but my body is destroyed. So I didn't use caffeine at all, even though I packed a few caffeine sachets. But I would probably pack them again, just in case I did want to use them. Yeah, trim my toenails, that would be a massive one. And then I think that the biggest thing is probably just a larger training block leading up to the race. Like I only trained for 10 weeks leading up to the race, probably 9 weeks really thinking about it. And I had a running coach that helped me out with some of the programming. And yeah, I think there's only so much you can do. 9 weeks leading up to a 106-kilometer ultra race through a mountain, which is at about 3,000 meters elevation. Which I noticed my fingers were going a little bit fat, which is from the altitude, I believe. So there's only so much you can prepare your body. But ultimately, I think I prepared my body really well. Did a pretty intensive training block for the first 8 weeks, and the last 1 to 2 weeks, I just chilled, hit up plunge recovery, you know, ice pools, I did saunas, foam rolling, I did a lot of grounding, and you know, missed the last indoor soccer game. So I just really relaxed and chilled, and I think that's definitely something I would do again next time, because that taper section really helped me. I think ultimately it's just experience, and after having completed this run, next run will be, you know, at least 2 times easier, I would say. Yeah, lastly, would I do it again? Naomi asked me that question when I finished the race, and I said, you can't ask me that question now. I think I said something along the lines of that. I just couldn't respond because I was a vegetable at the time. My legs were obliterated, my whole body was gone. But thinking about it now, 100% I would do it again. Yeah, I would do it again. I'm not sure if I'll do the Kosciuszko next year, but I definitely want to do another ultra race 2024. There's a few other things I'm keen on. I want to do an obstacle race, True Grit, maybe eventually do a Spartan race. I want to do this event called the Backyard Races, which is where you run 6.8 kilometers every hour on the hour until you drop. Yeah, there's just a few things I would like to continue doing. You know, this is what brings a lot of joy to my life, just continually challenging myself, upgrading myself. And I feel like after completing this race, I feel like my comfort zone has gone from here to here. So the person that I am now is much different to the person that I was before completing the 105 kilometer ultra. I would recommend anyone to challenge their physical abilities with something that absolutely scares them like I did. It doesn't have to be a 105 kilometer mountain run in the tallest mountain of Australia, but I do believe that when you challenge yourself physically or mentally, and you purposely choose that event and you lock it in and you're accountable to it and you complete it, is the best feeling in the world and is the best way to grow and become a better version of yourself. And that is long lasting. That's something that fills you up, that designs the character that you are becoming, and it influences the way you think about yourself when you're by yourself. And at the end of the day, that is the biggest influence on whether or not we are happy or content or at peace in our life. So that is real growth, and I will completely recommend growing like that in a physical manner to anybody else. That is, yeah, I think that's pretty well ends the conclusion of my run. And if you've got any questions, drop them down in the YouTube link below, and I'll keep you posted on any more events that I do in the future. This is one of the first YouTube videos that I've done on a big physical event. So I imagine that these videos will only get better and better. I'll get better at describing my experience throughout. I'll get better at filming content. And yeah, the more of you that, like, comment and share this video around, the more it encourages me to keep making these videos and become an absolute machine, beast, athlete, to start crushing some mega races that this world has to offer, and create with it and put it out there and inspire other people, because at the end of the day, that's what I love doing. It's part of my purpose. My purpose is to create, educate, and inspire others to live an unlimited life. And running races like that and doing crazy stuff like this in the world is what I believe is the closest thing to living a life without limits. So, hope you enjoyed it.
Oh my god. No! Don't touch it. Oh my god. Look at these suckers. Oh dear.